pastrami. And let's only use this tism. El holo in the pisco. It's like a... I haven't used rocks for a while. And let's go to a different mappo and make the mission the other tism mission. And then now it's fine. Yeah, the cockpit looks awfully spooky. Oh yeah, a Darfo.
Yeah.
The other thing, HunterNet, was they got the new ship models in the game for cockpits and the external models. So the bomber looks like the thick bomber that it was supposed to be. And the light fighter is small. Very spooky. I don't think hitboxes are any different, which is kind of a good thing, because that causes a lot of fuckery when you change the size of the hitboxes. Even if the tank has like a bigger hitbox, because that's what would make sense. It causes a lot of unintentional consequences where you make evasion in a tank like harder than you think it is, because he has a bigger hitbox. It means he needs to move more distance to like dodge a bullet or something, compared to like a small thing that also has better movement speed anyway. So
It's kind of like every single time I play Battlefield 5. I just take whatever machine or weapon I can do to take care of a tank, and I usually, if I have my like eyes set on it, I usually enjoy it because it's just way too slow.
well, usually in Battlefield 2042, you'll die to some infantry you never saw instantly when he C4'd you and no one noticed, because you have no way of knowing unless you see him. Because you can't, there's no audio feedback. And people can come from above, especially if they're wingsuiting, so... And apparently friendly infantry vehemently hate the idea of looking at a friendly tank and seeing if there's infantry attacking it. Because you never get, like, saved by your own infantry when there's infantry attacking you. By, like, manually putting C4 on you, which is mysterious. Oh, actually, I should change the name of the stream. There we go. Always do it 2 times, because it ensures that it might actually update the stupid thing. So what does OBS think about it? Thinks it's insanely quiet, so my balancing is just weird. Alright. Okay, so that's, I think, an acceptable volume now. I think this makes more sense now. Problem is, it sounds off to me. Somehow. I know one thing I can do. That might help. I don't know. Cool. still don't like the ammo. It's obnoxious.
I'm gonna go quickly grab a snack. I'll be back.
Snacko.
Snack attack.
Steak-tacular. Unfortunately, as for the deep space combat game is actually kind of close to something I wanted for capital ship ideas. It's just the gameplay isn't as in-depth for difficulty as I wish it was. It's more strategy than like actual like skill gameplay than I would like, but it's really close to what I would want. But it's doing way better than the RPG ideas I had, though. So, finding a game that's like an RPG that I would like. It's like the closest I think you can get is heavily modded Skyrim, even to this day, which is very tismy. Oh, and weirdly, Kenshi is actually kind of in the realm of possibility for some aspects. Like, the main thing Kenji does correctly, it does, like, the stat progression that I'd want. The only issue with Kenji, it's like, I would just have the stat progression, like, the system for it a lot. The only issue I had with Kenji is, like, you don't get stats that are, like, you know, superhuman. Where it's like, well, the whole point of an RPG, I would like it so that you could grind enough to become, like, superhuman for your statistics. Whereas Kenji, it's like you're still within the realm of, like, possibility for what a human could do. Which is the whole point of the game, though. But it's like, that's not what I would want from an RPG, you know? And also the setting would be completely different, too, than I would want. So that it would make more sense for you, specifically. Because I basically want an anime protagonist simulator game. Where you literally can start out as a nobody and then just through sheer effort become like the most OP thing in existence. And the whole point is that the reason why you're OP is you're more willing than anyone else to put in the effort. Everyone else is like too lazy and tismy to bother to grind it out, you know. And I just say grind it out is like a loose term, because the whole point is the gameplay would be good so that it no longer qualifies as grind. It just ends up being game play. But I did settle on 3 different stat categories, though, for like classes, which is like physical category, a magic category, and then tech category. And those can all be like worked at separately. And I don't know if I decided on like any purist paths or whatnot. Or you're just free to like, oh yeah, you can have a mage main that's also the strongest physical being in existence, even if you just decide to slap people. You would have the biggest slaps. I don't know if I decided if that would be possible, or if you'd have to specialize in one of the 3 categories. it's really spooky using the rocketos. I should switch to plasma soon, because that's another very infrequent weapon. And a weapon I don't even feel like is good. Oh! It's all going bad. Yeah, I got him. Oh yeah, there's also the very secret plan of tricking everyone to play Inferion so we could make a server. Cause I would actually be willing to pay for a small server that was like $10 to $15 a month. For some, I think Space Engineers is out of the running for various reasons in terms of hosting a server for friendos and spookytism. I think Infurion's more funno in the basic sense. And I wonder if there is mottos.
I got a bountiful harvest of wings and breadsticks.
Breadsticks from where?
From Papa John's.
Papa John's. That's a... You should have gone to Domino's because that's who I work for. So they're automatically better.
Actually, my brother likes Domino's more than Papa John's. He was sold Papa John's pizza.
But I recently had the Wingos from Domino's. And they have the kind of Wingos where they're very soft and juicy. If you like those type of wings, which isn't quite what I like. I like the more lean and crispy wings.
I like violent tender, like fall off the bone.
Oh yeah, that's what Domino's does. It's like disintegrating as you have it. But I prefer, like, you know, closer to Chinese fried chicken, where it ends up being very lean meat and very crispy typically. That's my preference. Because that's like the two types of Wingos I notice, is like very wet, tender wings, or the drier, leaner wings. Because usually the meat is a less, I don't think it's less greasy, I think it's just less moisture. Helps it feel like you're eating more lean meat when the meat should be the same in both circumstances. We need more ammo. We're constantly running out of ammo. Oh, there's a spooky tournament for Hunter Netto. I forgot what time it was and what day and who was fighting it. Because it was community done. So I need to, like, update my brain, you know. And also, I still kind of like 2042. The main problem is it's like, well, we're in fucking content drought for like 2 months now. Mainly because people complained so badly about the game that it made the devs insecure to the point where they took a 2-month break from the fucking game to, like, figure out what even life was or whatever. It's like, you see what you guys did? They had a perfectly competent game and you fucking made them think they made Satan himself. It's like, how dare you do this? Bad human beings.
To be honest, I just feel like they should have just made a game more catered towards what the people have been asking.
Yeah. Apparently. Because that's how games work nowadays, is the people who make the games have no idea how to make a good game, and the only thing they can do is to cater to their audience. Even if their audience doesn't know what they want, or they want something that's just terrible. Where it's gonna, like, cause...
I want another Battlefield 5, or a Battlefield 4. They should try to make another Battlefield 4.
Yeah, which would suck, because it would mean that, well, it means you have vehicles that cross-map other vehicles with their secondaries, and then you have it where the ground attack jet is completely uncontested, and the only vehicle that has a chance against it is the interceptor jet. Because even AA, it's like, well, the AA can't win against a good jet player, because the AA can't aim vertically up all the way. So it can just perpetually be 90 degrees above you and bomb you, and you'll die, and you can't even, like, fight back. The boats have the same problem, because the boats can be spec'd for AA, but they can't aim completely vertically above themselves, so good jet players will just abuse that and stay permanently above you, which would mean that even if you're AA, you're reliant on your teammates to cover you against aircraft, even if you yourself are anti-aircraft, which is fucking insane to me. It's like, why are you trying so hard to force people to teamwork? Because it's like, my minimum expectation would be, if I'm anti-air, I should be able to deal with anything that flies in the sky by myself and require no teammates to help me. I would expect teammates to help me with infantry and land vehicles, but not aircraft, because I'm anti-air. Why would I need help killing aircraft? But you do in Battlefield 4. You need help killing aircraft as you yourself. Oh, thank you, Zooks. You followed me. Yeah, you're having fun. I'm yelling about Battlefield 4. Tis right. Like, the main pro of Battlefield 4 over 2042 is the infantry are a lot slower and more reasonable. Yeah, that's like the better thing. I think so. Yeah, I'm killing AI with Roccos. It's fun. Oh, on the hydrogen map, because I never play on the hydrogen map, so I was feeling like I should. Also the empty map, because I get better frames on the empty map. So,
These wings are good.
how many? Oh, that's good. Oh, I almost have 240 on this map. Oh, sometimes it will go above. Sometimes I'll hit above 240. That's great.
240 what?
240 FPS.
Oh.
Oh yeah, because there was some frame rate optimizations. Because of the VR. So there was a little bit more optimization did. Which I find hilarious, because I remember a year ago, I suggested to Fernando, what are you gonna do to, like, make the game run at, like, high frame rates? And he said it's like, oh, it wasn't a really big focus. But all of a sudden, when he does the VR, he's like, oh yeah, the frame rate optimization, that's actually important. I'm like, so you're saying that when I tell you something, it doesn't mean anything, but when it comes up from something else, suddenly it matters. I see how it is. Apparently, you don't care about anything. And I'm saying this because I know he's not watching right now, even though he watches every stream, at least on the replay. So he'll be very sweet.
You better apologize to him.
Yeah. It's like, you see, it's like, that's like the phrase. It's like, well, I'm always a big righto. It just might take a very long period of time for that to be true. It's spooky. That's like, yeah.
I forgot how saucy these things are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How many, Alpha, did you know how many teams are in the tournament? Because I keep forgetting to look up, like, what's all the signups. Because basically, I'd be watching it. So 5. Oh, yeah, that's pretty good, though. So, how would the bracket, if it only ends up as 5, I'm guessing you could just do, like, a different style of bracket, and it would be completely fine. Or you could do it like football rules, where everyone fights everyone, because it's like before playoff rules, where everyone fights everyone. And you can just tally up like the wins and losses, and then that determines the playoffs, and then it's a tournament. You could do something like that. Or just like not do the tournament. You just do it where everyone fights everyone, and then that determines something. I don't know. Oh yeah, that's fun though. Because that means you get a lot more fights. So it means even if you have 5 teams, you'll get like a lot of time out of it. Because it's like the thing that sucks with like tournaments is like, you'd really want to see 2 teams fight each other, but they'll be on like opposite brackets, so it just won't happen. Unless they both get to the the finals.
I just never like, I don't like, what is it, gaming competitions in general. They're just basically just one big advertisement for the game.
Yeah.
I'm really.
Well, that's only in like when it gets into professional territory where there's private advertising companies that throw a lot of money around. When it's just like, because this is like what you see in fighting games a lot, because fighting games are one of the few genres of games that have, you know, professional esports, but they also have a lot of amateur tournaments. And usually, if you just enjoy the game, if you just go to the amateur tournaments, they're a lot more fun. Because it's just people, you know, enjoying the game. There's no money involved. It's not, there's no, like, high stakes to it. But when you get to, like, the professional setting, that's where it's like, yeah, it becomes, like, very corporatized or whatever.
I'm gonna quickly bring my trash upstairs, because I entirely just destroyed the wings.
You better, you destroyed those wings? The last time someone said that and posted a picture, it was very spooky.
No,
there was nothing left of the wings. They were literally destroyed. As in, they destroyed the wings. They didn't just eat them. They like brutally just gored parts of them and left like the other 90% of them intact.
Well, that's the thing. I destroyed the wings. They're destroyed.
You're destroyed.
I'll be back.
Alright. I wanted to use plasma. Because it's the other infrequent use weapon. Oh yeah, the perspective. Well, if I actually aim the correct way, the different perspectives don't make a huge difference, even though they are kind of cool. I think the more I probably, like, practice, it will stop feeling as weird. Yeah, it'll probably feel less weird over time. Very slowly. Yeah, plasma definitely does the DPS, but it's not very practical and dual. But it's amazing as like if you're gonna be a support man, you're just gonna help teammates.
The wings have been obliterated by me.
Oh no!
Absolutely gone.
What's did you get them dry or did they have salsa?
They had souse.
Souse, what kind of souse?
Barbecue.
Barbecue. I like. The only sauce I like is garlic parmesan, I think.
Well, for me, I like barbecue. Garlic parmesan's alright.
Yeah.
Depending on their buffalo sauce, I can do mild and medium. But
oh, the shield effect looks really spooky when it hits the
hot is usually a little too hot. I gotta say though, when I tried the pizza place's buffalo sauce, most of the times it's just disappointment.
Buffalo.
The buffalo sauce sucks. like Buffalo Wild Wings actually has some pretty great sauce, even though I'm not a big.
The main
Their
thing.
wings are just alright.
The main thing that sucks if anything spicy is when the only flavor is just spice. There's no like
Yeah.
actual flavor. It's just hot. That's it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I usually try to actually like. There's a thing in Indian cuisine where it is what they do is they balance sweet, savory, and spicy. Because they know that it's like a trifecta, you know.
Yeah. Over here. Oh
and
yeah.
I
Oh,
kinda
Zook's.
think
Yeah, Zook's likes buffalo. Buffalo. I like it. I like hot buffalo when it has other flavor besides the hotness, like I said. Because that's the thing with like, I feel like eating Vietnamese is their spice is like amazing because they just add spice to something that's already like very flavorful, so it works a lot better.
Like kung pao chicken.
Yeah. Or just any of the noodle dishes, which is what I always get. Because it's like the only time I'll ever enjoy eating vegetables, because it's one of the few places that understand how to make vegetables not taste like garbage. To the point where if I have a vegetable in any other context, it basically is so bad that I usually will be gagging. That's how much I don't like it. So I think that's like the extent that I don't like it, unless it's like exceptionally well made. Because I can kind of understand people having the opinion of, oh, like, oh, you don't like vegetables. It's like, well, that's one way to put it. I'm literally gagging on like a piece of broccoli or something. I feel like that is not what you would say not liking. It's like it's a extreme rejection to have the thing.
The thing about vegetables is that
They're bad.
they're not they're like essential, but some people just don't. They don't like it for like multiple reasons. But for me, I'm very serious. I just really like vegetables. Like if you look at me, or if you go to me and basically go like, "Yo, are you gonna eat that broccoli?" I'm going to say yes.
Gonna
and
eat
you're like,
it.
yo, you gotta eat those green beans. I'm gonna be like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna finish the plate. You know? That's just how I've always been.
Yeah.
Like, I love vegetables, and there are certain types of vegetables that I'm not the biggest fan of. Beans, I don't like their pasty texture. Like, it's spew. It's not great. You know? Like, green beans, or not green beans, black beans, red beans, all that stuff. It just doesn't, it's like mealy, and I don't like it. It's like soft and mealy. Like, which is weird, because I absolutely love corn tortillas. Not like, you know, like not the chips, but the actual, just the corn tortillas.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. But when it comes to beans, they make me gag. I don't like beans.
I don't like beans either. There's a few exceptions. Like peanuts, which are technically beans.
Well, yeah, because they're a legume, yeah.
Those are the only beans that I like. Which makes sense because they're high in protein.
Green beans, sugar snap peas, I think is also a type of, no it's not, that's not a type of bean. But it's green beans, I'm okay with green beans though, those are good.
Those are tolerable in the right circumstances for me.
Dude, green beans are the only thing that's an exception to the list. I love green beans.
Yeah.
But like actual regular beans, oh no. No, thank you. You know?
Oh, I think if you had like dried lima beans that were well seasoned, I think that's one of the things I would like. Because it's just similar to eating like, you know, sunflower seeds, which I like the few times I had those, because those are great. Like salted sunflower seeds are like amazing as a snack.
They are.
They're like better than potato chips in like every possible way. It's like, not only do I like them more, they're like infinitely better for your health.
Like healthier for you. I really like I really like I really like green beans. Well, I'm trying to say I really like kettle corn, like the kettle chips.
Oh, those are great.
Regular-
Yeah.
Kettle chips are like amazing. They're exactly like they're light, they're crisp. Regular chips, like regular potato chips, usually oof. They just ouch.
Yeah.
They
The regular
just-
ones are okay, but like the kettle ones are really good.
I would take kettle chips over over what you call it any day. Potato chips. Oh.
My current theory is that the reason I don't like vegetables is there's some chemicals in them that I don't like that will get broken down with, like, if you fry them, like, extensively. I think there's some chemical in it that I react to that gets broken down. Because the main thing, it's like, I don't like raw potatoes, but I have no problem with french fries whatsoever. So I'm thinking there's something that happens when you cook it like that that breaks down whatever chemical in it that makes me, you know, gag and whatever.
Well, I don't know what it could be personally.
I don't know.
I don't know what it could be.
It's probably just some enzyme in it that's like gets broken down through cooking. So if you cook it a really long time, it will just go
everything's gonna be bad if you cook it down to mush.
well, not down to
cooking it
much, just like enough to break that one specific thing, because it's not very strong.
Then maybe try stir fry.
Oh yeah, because stir fried vegetables. It's like, yeah, that's fine. I don't have an issue.
Stir fried vegetables are really good too, because you get a lot of flavor in them too.
But to me, it's like a lot. It's like a night and day difference kind of deal. It's from me thinking. It's basically takes vegetables from being like inducing vomiting on eating one individual vegetable to it being one of my favorite foods in that territory. Like that's how big of a difference it makes for me, which I feel like is unusual.
One thing I gotta say is the fact that people think that you could just have a diet mainly consisting of just meat, just pure carnivore, and still be able to like live a healthy life. It's like, no.
I feel like it's more in the realm of possibility than only like greens, just because meat comes from animals that have varied diets, which would mean that their meat would have a better variety of different types of nutrients if you're eating different varieties of meat from different animals that had different diets. It would make sense. But the problem with meat is it's usually going to come from an animal that ate like a generic food its entire fucking life because it's farmed.
Yeah.
If it was like a hunter-gatherer and you were hunting all your meat, you could probably live off meat and be actually reasonably healthy. You wouldn't be like above average, but it's like you might end up being around average health, if not like pretty good health, if you were getting hunted meat.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the hunter-gatherer. I'm talking people who's living like average.
Well, people who
lifestyle.
eat like only spam or something, and they're like, this is fine.
Like there was the one who basically said, "Oh, here's a quick meal that you can do. You can basically just cook rice and tuna and live off of that, and then they proceed to get mercury poisoning and need to go to the hospital."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're
Well,
like,
why
"Oh,
would you pick tuna? Because tuna is known to have mercury in it.
Well, they said, "Oh, it's a quick and cheap meal," and like, yeah, it was a quick and cheap meal that brought them to the hospital which they proceed to have like a.
If you had like
it was like a
pork.
third health bill.
If you substitute the tuna for like pork or something, you at least wouldn't have mercury poisoning.
I was literally said, instead of tuna, do something like cooked spam.
Or like salmon, like really nice fish.
Or how about like the little like what is it, the sardine fillets? Those are actually pretty nice.
Fillet of fish.
Like, I know people say, ooh, yeah, but like, let's be honest, sardines when they're done correctly, they taste amazing. They're just not done correctly most of the time.
I've never had good sardine. I don't like seafood.
Good sardines are out there. People need to stop being afraid of sardines because they're actually depending on how it is. They can be very flavorful.
Oh, I don't like
Very-
seafood very much. Like the only
Oh,
fish I like are salmon and sometimes catfish.
I love seafood. That's where usually I differ.
But-
The only thing I can't handle are mussels, but the last time I had a mussel dish was like a really shitty.
And if I remember, I like shrimp, and I thought scallops were fine, basically.
I haven't. I want to try out some of the scallops and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
um.
They just
one
taste.
thing I do know,
They taste
if
like
you give
shrimp,
me
but
any
it's a
type of
different
fish-
texture. Really, it's really weird.
If you give me any type of fish, I will eat that fish and I'll be happy with that fish. You know.
Yeah.
Like mahi. I love mahi steaks. Tuna, absolutely. I'll
It's like a
entirely
weird fish.
destroy a salmon.
What if someone could farm a blobfish? Would you eat a blobfish?
The sad thing about blobfishes is they are blobby and
It's very gooey.
well the thing is down at their depths they actually look like regular fish. The thing
Yeah.
is when people like bring them up to the surface they do intense like scarring of their what do you call it? Intense scarring of their skin and it makes them like look fucking ugly.
Yeah. The weird thing is squids can actually exist in any depth they want. Which is
look,
really weird.
A blobfish at depth look entirely normal. Like, well, that's what they look like.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Fish.
when they're pulled up, like extremely fast, they damage their tissues.
Oh yeah,
they
that's
look ugly.
that's with any. But the weird thing is squids can like live at any ocean depth. Period. They don't have. They're adapted to any depth. I don't know why that is. I just know that's like a fact about squid, which is like that's really weird.
To be honest, I actually like blobfishes when they're not entirely out of water.
Yeah, they look like a frog.
Yeah, that's what they look like.
All right, what's the next like weapon? Oh, I never use flak, even though it's like it's gonna be easy.
Aliens. The best way to describe it is imagine aliens discovering humans and nicknaming us after what we look like when we explode in the vacuum
Will you
space.
let me? Yeah.
That's basically what they did to the blobfish, right? Like, we like took them out of their vacuums.
Put them in a
and
bad area.
They just explode, right? But like at depths, they look just like a normal fish. and
Sneeze rifle.
I actually like that. You know. I like fish. They are cool. I got like something I don't think you know. Recently, like what was it, 2 months ago, I got certified for open water diving. I can go down to 60 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say.
So you're gonna get the
if you get-
amphibious APC so you can dive off of it? Is that what the plan is?
Maybe. No. Nah. But basically for my Christmas, what they said was instead of giving you gifts, and instead of giving you all this stuff that you really don't need, we're gonna give you an experience of your lifetime. I'm like, all right. They're like, we're gonna make you a certified scuba diver. I'm like, oh, okay.
All right. It's highly
And I went-
irregular.
And I went down 60 feet underwater. My God, it's amazing. It's a fantastic experience.
I'm thinking
Just do
of
it
the
safely.
ocean music from Mario.
Just do it safely, because there's lots of rules and safety things. Like I basically went through. I went through an online class, and then after that, I went through 3 days like practice. And
Yeah.
then we went down to 60 feet, and it was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
You need to be
It was fantastic.
like mindful around different types of wildlife like stingrays. Like don't mess with
Yeah.
stingrays. A man died
Well-
to a stingray.
Yeah. Oh, rip.
Yeah.
Rip.
I heard someone talking about because it was Steve Irwin who died to a stingray, right?
Yeah, it was Steve Irwin.
I heard someone mentioning how it was sad because the petting area in their local aquarium had a bunch of stingrays in it, and everyone was avoiding them for a long time. But when he went there, all the stingrays were like gathering around his hand because they wanted to be petted so badly. It was really sad. It's like, oh, cute stingrays.
Well,
But it wasn't really the stingray's fault because it was like a freak accident what happened to Steve Irwin, basically.
Well, yeah, it was. I remember it was literally like a freak accident on the beach
Yeah.
or whatever.
Because he literally got stabbed in the heart by its spine, and it only happened because the stingray got spooked. It's like, if anything else like went differently, he would have survived. And people say it's like, actually, he should have survived, but they fucked up the surgery just enough to like make it where he wasn't going to survive when he could have. If they did the surgery perfectly, people think he could have survived, but yeah. But it's like, surgery isn't known to always go literally 100% perfect, even if you are a medical professional.
To be honest, I feel like I looked at the thing. I feel like Elden Ring is going to have the same issue as Cyberpunk 2077. The hype is not gonna. It's not gonna be able to live up to the hype.
I don't feel like it's as hyped as Cyberpunk was. Well, I don't feel the hype.
Cyberpunk's getting better. Like.
Yeah, I got a 50 giggly byte patch.
Yeah, it's getting better. I don't think it's 100% yet, in my opinion, in my eyes, but it's getting better. It's significantly better than the product that we got at launch.
Well, it's just weird how it's like, it's really disappointing compared to Witcher 3, but well, it kind of makes sense because one of the weakest parts of Witcher 3 is the actual open world. The open world purely exists as like something for you to, ride your horse through to give like the travel time. And that's really the only reason it exists, because otherwise it's not really utilized, the open world. So it makes sense that like, oh, and they make a game that's supposed to utilize the open world more, and then it ends up not being as good. Cause
yeah, well, the thing is, I have full confidence in Project Red that they'll get it done and make it a enjoyable experience for all.
At the cost of everyone in the company's livelihood. Sanity, livelihoods. It's gonna be like, what company was? Oh, it was BioWare. Yeah, that was the company where they literally on the regular have people who go into a room and just scream and freak out for an hour. That's how bad it is to work for BioWare. That's a normal occurrence. Is people literally having mental breakdowns on the job. And they're referred to as stress casualties.
Wow, great job, BioWare.
But most of it, it was mostly when they were making Anthem, basically. Because it was a fucking hellhole for them.
Oh, well, Anthem, that was not good for anybody.
Yeah, which I was very upset by, because I so desperately would love to play a game like Anthem if it was good. Like, that's like the kind of like MMO style game that I really like, because it's like, you don't have a lot of abilities, you just have a few embellishments here and there, but it's mostly just a shooter, really.
Yeah, that's the thing, I was looking at Anthem, and I was like, that seems great. I want to see what it looks like after launch.
Yeah, and the classes seemed really good, because you had like a light class where you can like have good mobility. You had like a proper tanky class where you can just absorb hits and do big like bouts of damage too. Is like, you had just like Mage Man, and then you had like, light assault, which is like, just kind of jack of all trades. You can kind of just do whatever you want. You're not locked to a specific playstyle. It's like, oh, it seemed like so good, but they just. And you can kind of see, you could see like the shadow of a good game from the gameplay of it, but they just ruined various aspects of it.
Like the flying sections.
Yeah, that sucked.
The flying I remember people literally getting pissed at it because they could not complete the tutorial because of how janky the flying was in that game.
I bet people are like, it's like Archwings and Warframe, even though I really like the Archwings and Warframe and don't understand why no one likes them. It's like Archwing
The
gameplay was
Archwings
good.
in Warframe are so for me. They are well executed. They're just boring.
Yeah, I don't remember the enemy
That's
design
like-
being any level of difficult though.
No. Archwings, like the Archwings levels were like the easiest levels in Warframe.
Yeah, which is like,
You could have a level 15 Archwing and go into a level 30
well,
area.
it's like you have a level 15 Archwing, no mods. Your gun also has no mods, and you're just fine.
Literally, there's a joke with Archwings that I remember seeing, which says, "Oh yeah, Archwing modifications are a what is it? They're illusion. They really don't do anything."
Yeah. Which is already like the problem in Warframe, which is like there's like no, at high levels there's no tankiness anymore. It's everyone's
No.
forced to glass cannon, or
That's the reason why like Octavia and all those Warframes that are just really great at dishing out damage. That's the reason why they're considered S tier, and why
yeah, poor
Rhino
tanky frames
is
like
basically-
Rhino and Inaros, which are like the main tank frames, just
and Naros is actually good.
yeah. And Inaros
For
does
the
better
sole
because
reason-
you can get damage resistance on them.
Yeah,
So-
for the sole reason of damage resistance.
But there are a few enemies at the high level where they will still kill you in like less than 1 second.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like the Corpus heavy gunners have like such an insane DPS value that makes no fucking sense. That will
For-
shred anything in just moments, regardless of how durable it is.
For me, I remember playing Warframe until the point where I had to just like it was for the game. In the beginning, I was super good, and then
Mhm.
I started reaching up to the levels of we're talking like 100-hour grind for like one piece of progress. And at that point, I was like, I gotta stop. This is just too much for me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I just always hated leveling up different weapons and warframes and the mastery rank, so I ended up just staying on mastery rank 5 and then just did anything else you could in the game to like make your character more power scaled or whatever. Like, because I think when I like figured out like that nightmare mod's really good, that was when I started like, oh, what nightmare missions can you do by yourself with like not much issue.
Yeah.
And then I was doing that, and then I got like cool mods, and then I was just like, at some point, just got bored because it's like, well, I'm just at the point where if I want to get better weapons, I need to literally get the better weapons because the higher mastery weapons are better, and like I look at their base stats, they're just better.
They're
That's
just
how it
better.
works.
I actually have one of the best weapons, like melee weapons in the game right now. It's the staff. It's like the Ursa. I think it was Ursa Prime or something like that.
Yeah, but it's like some of the higher mastery like weapons, like for like a rifle, it's like you just have like 20% more base damage, but because of the mods, having an extra 20% base makes such a huge difference to the gun when you add all your mods to it. It's like the base stats are just so important. Even if a mastery rank 17 weapon is only gonna be like maybe 2% more DPS than a mastery rank 16 weapon, that still makes a huge difference. Because there's no way to increase your base stats. Everything's multiplicative on your base stats. There's no mods that just add a flat value to your weapon. For like, those don't exist. And that's like the other thing with mods. It's like, I think a big reason why tanky frames just get worse the higher level is like, well, the main thing is like, when you modify your weapon, there's nothing you put on your weapon that improves your defense whatsoever, even if you wanted to. It's like, literally, all the weapon mods could possibly do is make the weapon better at being a weapon. Whereas, with your Warframe, you're picking between your abilities and survivability. You're compromising between those two.
There's one Warframe I know that I know that are actually considered good support Warframes, and one is Trinity Prime. The reason why is because of that fucking ult, baby. That ult, it literally grants immunity to your team when spec'd right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Which is fucking
So
a
all we
second.
need is a bunch of energy frames that give everyone energy, and then we're invincible forever, baby.
Well, that's what they did. That's why Trinity's considered so
Yeah.
good, because you could do that.
But that brings up to the other problem I have of Warframe is, like, I hate how the game is so biased towards co-op over single player. Just,
It is.
like, if you want to play the game by yourself, it's just harder. That's how it is. Like, not only is it the game harder, it's harder to grind even. Like, it takes longer to grind anything as well.
Yeah, actually, it's one of those, like, I have to agree with you on that without any issue, because I have a friend who played the game and he did everything solo, and he like, me and him were both trying to grind the same part. It took me what 2 days of actively trying. It took him 3 weeks of actively trying, just because the amount of luck that basically it was a relic part. So I went with a couple of groups. We all had the same relic. We all had them like spec'd out, right? If one person got the part in the whole group, everyone else got the part.
Yeah.
He had to do it all by himself. Grab the relic, farm it, and then have a low chance of getting it. So it took him like stupid amounts longer than an average than me. I was like, oh yeah, I just got the part. And he's like, what the fuck you mean you got the part? I'm like, I just got it. It was
silly.
for him.
That's like the main thing. It's like, I don't understand why. Because single player is inherently going to be harder than co-op, because you just have less people to do the levels. So if you have co-op, you're just going to do everything faster because there's more people. So automatically, by default in co-op, you're going to be having an easier time and progressing faster. So I don't know why they also do things like making drop rates better in co-op, basically. Like, why on earth would that even be a thing? You're going to rig the system so that drop rates are just better in co-op versus single player. Because all you need to do is, if you play single player, you get 4 rolls for the loot. Whereas in co-op, every person gets 1 roll and then it's shared, so that the drop rate ends up being the same. Which means that single player will still suffer a little bit because you're still by yourself having to do everything. But at least you're not getting fucked over with the RNG compared to if you did it in co-op. So it's better, and then for like 2 and 3 mans, you would just like adjust it so that the drop rates would end up being like effectively the same. Because that's the other thing. It's like, well, 4-man co-op is always better than 2-man or 3-man as well. That's like the other thing. Is like, if you want to play co-op, it's like you're always better off with 4 people. There's never any reason to do 2 or 3 unless you can't find 4 people. Which is also a little silly. Because I feel like if you had like that, like optimizing like a 2-man co-op would probably be like a lot of fun. Just for doubles. But it's like, well, there's not much point, because like if you just had 4 people, it's just better. But yeah, but that's like the main reasons of like Warframe is like, well, it's a solid game, but the problem is it's grindy in ways I don't like, where essentially, because of the master rank, you're at some point gonna have to use something that you don't like just to grind it up to get your master rank higher, so you can use something else that's locked off to you that you do want to use. Or, you know that some of the higher ranked mastery stuff just has better sets, so you feel forced to use all these crappy stuff that you don't care about just to push through it to then get your master rank higher to use something that's like more worth using. And then you have the issue of like, well, if you want to play single player, you just have to accept playing the game like hilariously behind everyone else. You're just slowing down the game considerably. And then the last issue of it's like the playstyles, the higher level it is, the more narrow your playstyle options are, to the point where everyone ends up converging on DPS essentially. Everyone ends up being a DPS, and then the only variety is you could be a DPS on a support frame. So you're a support framer, your weapons like will melt anything, but your ability to support the team instead of buffing yourself, and that's the only real difference for like your gameplay. Is like you're supporting your teammates instead of yourself. So you're like a DPS, you're still a primary DPS, but you're a secondary in support, instead of being a full DPS, and that's like the only real variety you'll see. So that means that's like, if you like playing as a tank, is like you just gotta stay around level 50 as like the max level to make it feel like it's pretty, you know, well balanced. And yeah, that's the problems I have. Because otherwise, I'd love to play it all the time. And even I'd recommend it to people more for like free-to-play games. It's like, well, yeah, it's pretty solid. You'd have fun with this boy. Oh, and I'm not the biggest fan of the trading system either. Because I feel like the trading systems, there's aspects of it where it's definitely encourages you to pay for the platinum. The main reason being, it's like, well, in the hypothetical situation that something went up on trading that was like an in-demand item, if you don't have the platinum on hand, you're not getting it. It's like you're already fucked. If someone wanted to trade something that was worth a lot of platinum, you need to have the platinum on hand to have a chance, which would mean that you would feel very pressured to impulse buy, like, the 200 platinum, because you don't have the time to sell something to get that platinum, to buy that thing you want. You need to pay for it, because that's the only way you could maybe get it fast enough to have a chance in getting that item. Even if it ends up being, like, an auction-type deal, then, well, a lot of people might just be buying up the premium platinum just to get that one item. It's like, there's aspects of it like that where it's like, it kind of ends up you paying money on the game even though you don't want to. But the game will still have the appearance of being like, oh yeah, you can get everything in the game for free. You don't need to pay a cent. And the only real paying is like the you know, the cosmetics, you know? Like, that's the only thing you really have to pay for. Even though there's definitely situations where you will feel pressured, absolutely, to pay into the game for gameplay reasons. And you can still do it. Because it's like the trading system. It's like, well, the trading system doesn't mean that, oh yeah, it's a free ticket to getting anything you want. It's like, no, you're competing with everyone else. Which means you're competing with the people who pay money. And the people who pay money are always going to have an edge over you when it comes to getting what they want through the trading system. Because they can outbid you, and they won't have the latency issue. It's like they're always going to have like 2,000 platinum on hand or some bullshit. So if anything goes for like a good price, they're just going to be able to get it, and you don't even have a chance. Yeah. That's like the aspects I don't like. It's awfully spooky. And I don't know how much of an issue there is with old content getting kind of left behind in favor of new content.
Yeah.
I don't know
that's
how
one of my
much.
big things. Like, oh, that's actually one of the really, really big things.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, I don't think it's as bad as something like Elite Dangerous is, where the devs could not give a shit about old stuff in the game. To the point where it's been a perpetual state of being unbalanced for years and years and years and years. And it's very rare for an old thing in the game, like PvE bounty hunting, to ever get, like, an earnings adjustment to make it make sense. It's just allowed to be bad for just years, with everyone knowing it's bad, including the dev team, and just nothing getting done about it. For something just as simple as, like, not even, like, the risk rewards, like, just, like, the money payment, like, period, making sense. Because it was, like, after 5 years, they, like, finally made PvE combat, like, somewhat good for the money payouts, when for the last, like, since 2013, it was inferior to anything else in the game. And then compared to any of, like, the Gold Rush, like, money, it's just hilariously bad. But even compared to the other vanilla ways, like exploring or trading, it's just hilariously bad. Especially considering it's actually risky, where you could lose, like, everything as you're fucking fighting people. You could die very easily. And have to, like, pay up a shit ton of money to buy all your stuff back. for Elite Dangerous' case. It's like, at least Warframe's, like, I think they care more about updating old tile sets and whatnot. And, like, there's stuff they'll do, like, when they improve, like, the AI, that just makes the old stuff better because that's a universal improvement. Or when they update the graphics. Because Elite Dangerous, I don't think they've updated the graphics for years now. It's like, it's so bad where it's like, there's like a... You can look through Elite Dangerous and see the parts of the game that were modeled in different years, all being used completely fine. It's like, you could see the parts that were modeled in 2013, the parts that were modeled in 2016, and the parts that were newly created for 2020. Which is like the latest DLC. It's like, even though it has problems, like, you can tell that it was modeled in this year, and has like a way better just polygon count and higher resolution textures compared to like the outer holes of space stations that are like basically were made in 2013 and have never been updated once. It's like, it's some of the ship models, like, yeah, is like, you have like stuff like the Cobra and the Sidewinder, where those are ships that were modeled back in 2013 and they have never ever been updated, compared to ships that were made like in 2019 and they just look a lot better just from a standpoint.
Kind of like the ships you start off with. Those are fugly.
Yeah, it's like, those are the ships where it's like, those were made when the game launched. And those are the ships that were present in the beta stages, too.
Yeah.
So their year design is even earlier.
What was the next name? The Sidewinder? That one's ugly looking.
It's like, I kind of like how it looks, though, but to me it's like, it's just so objectively inferior to, like, later ships. Like Cutter? Like, the Cutter just looks, like, a lot better from an objective standpoint. Like, not even talking about how it just has a better level of detail, because it's meant to be that way from its design. It's like, no, it's just... It just physically has better polygon counts and better textures. Because it was made in a later period of time. Yeah, the PvPs is, well, the PvP before engineering, I was almost interested enough to, like, try it out, but then when the first version of engineering came out, it's forever doomed PvP to be a balancing nightmare. Even though, till this day, people will still say how it isn't, like, a balancing nightmare, and it actually can end up being good. But what I see is, I see everyone committing to the exact same ship and the exact same weapon loadouts, with a little bit of variation, which to me says it isn't balanced, because you're all doing gentlemen's agreements to have specific types of gear. Because when people say PvP, what they mean is, like, instance gentleman PvP, not world PvP. Because that's what's a nightmare in Elite Dangerous, is impromptu world PvP. Because that's when you can have any equipment you want, and where you will sometimes just get screwed over by someone having a loadout that will hard counter you, and you'll have no chance against them.
I also have to say the combat in the game is like, it's not the best.
Yeah, well,
like,
with...
the combat in the game, ooh.
It's like, the main issue I have, it mostly comes from PvE, because all I ever did was PvE in Elite. Basically, it comes down to, it's just turning. You just need to turn. It's like, there's no point to do any level of advanced maneuvering against the AI other than whatever allows you to turn the fastest, which applies from an Eagle up to, like, a Cutter. It's like, even with a Cutter in PvE, it's like, there's really, even if you try to, like, boost away to get, like, 2 kilometers from a ship, even if you do that, it's like, it's reasonably effective. But if you're just able to churn faster, you would still have a faster TDK. So if you had, like, a ship like, you know, any decent PvE combat ship, like a Corvette or Anaconda, which are, like, they're decent. Just because they have a better churn rate, they just end up being better than a Cutter in PvE just because they have better time on target. Because this is about being on target. And booming and zooming means you're spending less time on target, compared to those ships, which can spend a lot more time looking at what they're attacking. So inherently, they just end up doing better in PvE, because they'll just have faster time to kills. So you just really feel like in PvE, it's just literally turn fighting the game. where the only thing that matters is your turn rate. And otherwise you just need to have enough health to like not get killed in like less than a minute. And you'll be fine.
So...
Because what the AI love to do is they love to get stuck in turn fights all the time. It's like the AI do not really like to run away from you unless, like, well, their sixth sense goes off. Because, like, they know the moment you're behind them and they will boost away from you the moment you get in a good position. Which is very frustrating to deal with, because essentially, if you get into a good position on the AI, they instantly deny you that positioning by boosting away. So you feel like you're kind of wasting your time to an extent. And it's better just to lock them into churn fighting, because then you can be like, you know, melting them with your guns, and they won't react to like running away, which is just very weird how it's designed. Because the AI will only run away if you get behind them, they run away immediately. But if you're just melting them with like, you have like an anaconda's worth of firepower, and you're just throwing everything you have at the AI, it will just stay facing you and has no desire of running away from you whatsoever. Even though you're just fucking melting him hilariously. All he will do is just also be attacking you with everything he has. So it ends up being a DPS race, which you always win because you have the modified guns and whatnot, and better health. So you're always going to win a DPS race. And that's why buy leaves are way better for PvE, because the whole point is you're trying to get stuck in DPS races and everything, because then you need to do no maneuvering, so you just melt them. That was what I figured out like years and years before everyone else like realized it. Which was actually, instead of even maneuvering on the AI, just force them to fight you fairly, and then you'll just blow them away. And then that's why buy weaves are better, because if you have buy weaves, it's like you're gonna regen your shields passively. You don't even need to use shield cell banks even, just to get your shields back up to fight like more AI. And if you have people with the healing lasers, it's like, oh, that's even better. But I still would run the buy weaves, even because I used to run the healing lasers myself, which meant that, well, I need to run a buy weave because no one's gonna be available to heal me, because I'm basically the met. That was fun for a time though. Like, it'll still like.
It got bored quickly though.
Oh yeah, I still played it for like years and years and years. I just eventually got tired of it because it's like, it was me being aware for years that like the game is definitely past its prime for me in terms of me enjoying it. Like we're over the hill in terms of excitement. And it's just me being aware of that for 2 years, and it's like eventually I'm just like at the point where it's like I just don't find this even like a little bit enjoyable anymore, because it's just so like it's so been there, done that. I just don't care. I haven't played Star Citizen Alpha. I kind of want to try it out though, but I'm just not in a hurry. Because to me it's like, well, it's like the same thing with VR. I want VR, but everything is on hold until I get a better graphics card. For anything else I want to do, all of it's on hold until I get a better graphics card.
And those are right now in...
Oh, it's getting better now. We're getting close to like where it's probably going to be like where you could get a high-end card that's 20% higher than it would have been if the market was perfect. But to me, that's fine. I can live with that. What I can't live with is them being double the fucking price for what they should be. Like, if it settles down to being just a 20% premium, that's fine. Because I'm only going to buy a graphics card once every 3 years, maybe. So it being 20% higher of a price than it should be, that's completely livable.
Well,
it sucks.
The thing about right now is just if you get a graphics card that's able to do, like, some sort of ray tracing, you're already set in the future. Yeah. Because lots of games are moving over to ray tracing now, which I feel like is stupid because it's bloating file sizes of games.
I'm pretty sure the ray tracing adoption rate is doing better than like 4K adoption rate, I think. Just statistically.
Yeah, but still, like, I don't know why people are like, oh, we need ray tracing in our games now. It's like, dude, we've had ray tracing on the fucking DOS like consoles. And why do it now? Just because it makes things look pretty. games were way optimized. Now we're just in floating file sizes now.
Well, what I don't understand is the fact that with graphics cards, because a big problem with graphics cards is they're getting more generalized over time. Because way back when graphics cards were first made, they were extremely specialized to doing graphics, which is why they were so good at graphics. But now with ray tracing, a graphics card's not only doing, you know, the video rendering, it's also doing ray tracing, which makes it inherently less efficient at doing its main job.
Graphics, yeah.
As well, and then NVIDIA, it's even worse, because they have tensor cores as well, which are AI-based, like, rendering. So to me, it's like, why on earth do we not have... Because I would kind of be like, well, it's really easy to get PCIe slots on your motherboard, so it's like, why are we doing it where we have, like, 3 empty PCIe slots on your motherboard, when you could have a graphics card that only does graphics, then a freaking separate ray tracing card that exists to do ray tracing. And if that existed, it would probably have like 3 times the throughput on just ray tracing compared to like an Ampere card. It's like, why aren't these separate cards at this point? And no one really wants to do that. It's like between Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA, they're all going in the same direction of everything on one card. So it's like, so we're just gonna have motherboards that are just gonna have unpopulated PCIe slots because there's no reason to put anything there. It's like when you could have like a graphics card and a ray tracing card as 2 separate things that would do their jobs way better.
And more efficiently to the PC too. Because you gotta think about it, it would take less cores to run both of them.
Because to me, the only problem is like, well, in theory, there's a latency issue, but like, well, that's just a software issue. That's a solvable problem. Because you could make it where 2 separate cards could work as well as one card that was doing everything. Like that's like the thing with SLI. With SLI, there's no reason why it can't be as good as one graphics card. In theory, you could have it be perfectly efficient with no problems. The problem is no one bothered to fix it. Because it's, you know, it's a lot, like, it's a hard problem to fix stuff, but it's a fixable problem. And there's a few games, like Ashes of the Singularity, that have perfect implementation for SLI. Where it runs at, like, it runs at, like, 100% efficiency. Like, if you have 2 graphics cards, you're essentially, if you add the 2 graphics cards together, that's, like, the level of performance you're getting with that. Whereas,
yeah, but at that point, people are not willing to spend like how much money on 2 different cards.
oh no, that wasn't the point of SLI. When SLI was relevant, what you would do is like when a new graphics card would come out. So like back when like the 480 came out or whatever, just as an example, what you would do is when after 2 years, when your card wasn't keeping up on its own anymore, you would buy another 480. You just find some used one that was like half the price it was on launch. So you would buy your main card for $300, and then in 2 years, you would buy a used one for $150 and SLI it, and you would get double the performance for another 2 years. You'd be able to keep up with your graphics, and then at that point, that's when a single card would be like better than those 2 SLI ones. So you'd pay, you know, $400 for it, and then you'd SLI that later for another $200. That's what a lot of people were doing, that because it was very cost effective.
I get you now.
And then the other thing you could do with SLI, instead of getting 1 high-end card, you could buy 2 middle-range cards, and you can sometimes get similar performance to 1 high-end card. Sometimes. It'd be like the equivalent of buying 2 1070s instead of 1 1080 Ti. If the 2 1070s had perfect implementation, they would outpace a 1080 Ti by about like 30%. It would be 30% better. But there's no games. There's like a handful of games that will even work on SLI, and then there's a handful of games that I consider acceptable performance, which is like 80% efficiency. I consider getting above 80% efficiency to be like, yeah, that's like good enough. That's like the target performance. It's nice to have 100% efficiency, But I think 80% is like, that's like the target. Like, that's more than good enough. And I consider 50% efficiency to be like acceptable. Like, at least you feel like you didn't completely waste your money.
Anything less than it would just not be worth it.
Anything less, it's like, well, if it's less than that, it's not even working, in my opinion. It's like, if not even getting like 50% extra performance from having 2 graphics cards, it's like, it clearly just doesn't work at that point. And to me, 80% means it's working really well. And if you get like 100%, like you're a programming wizard and you actually like cracked ray trace, like cracked SLI completely. But this actually already happened before with graphics cards, because what you used to have was the physics cards, and they did like special physics rendering. But what happened was Nvidia ended up buying out physics, started implementing it on their cards. It never fucking worked anywhere near as well as it did with the separate cards, so they ended up killing it, because eventually normal rendering kind of caught up the physics.
Yes, I actually heard about that. What,
It's like, from Cammy probably, because Cammy was pretty aware of like all that nonsense going
yeah,
on.
it was Cammy. He was playing the marble.
Yeah, the Marvel game, because that was a game that literally,
Physics card.
yeah, like as soon as the physics cards were gone, that game never fucking worked until they rebuilt the entire game from scratch to work on like modern cards that don't have physics anymore. And it still seems like there's parts of that game that don't feel like they work quite as well as they once did, even though it's playable.
Yeah, Cammy actually was telling me about that. He said that the game feels like different from his childhood, and he knew the reason why.
Yeah. Well, even when I was watching it, I was just like, there's parts of it where they felt really weird. You know, beyond the things like, you know, gravity being turned up really high, because, well, that's a normal thing for platformers. There's other things where, like, the rope physics being all, like, jittery. It's like, that's weird, but why would they be jittery? Because they should be, like, you know, normal ropes. Because I know, like, we've had fabric physics nailed for a long time where they don't, like, freak out constantly. Alright. I'm getting, I've had my fun with HunterNet, though.
Yeah, I was like wondering, I was like, damn, bro, he's really going on hard on this HunterNet.
Yeah, but it's like, I've had my fulfillment killing AI. I was going on just because I was talking more, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you for watching. Spooky. But yeah. Thank you, Alfred. You have a good day, as well as anyone who watches this later, like Spooky Nando's.
We know you watch this.
Well, I know he mentions it to me. He's like, I know what you say in the stream. It's like, yeah, I'm aware. It's not like a spooky thing. He kind of meant it as like, he felt I was under the impression that I didn't think people would look at what I say. It's like, oh no, I don't talk that much differently on stream than normally. I'm not like of this crazy person thinking that's like, oh my god, they know what I said. Oh, I didn't realize.
No,
Like, no, I'm not a fucking idiot.
I feel like that's one thing that people like don't realize. Like, wow, you know, we're not idiots. Not stupid.